Today we're going to practice finding the slope of a line. I have our formula written below. It is slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Notice slope is represented with an m. I know that can be confusing because there's no m in slope, so I'd just like to make sure that we're really clear. M is slope. Let's try some examples. Here we have an ordered pair. Our first step when we have an ordered pair is going to be to label our x1, y1, x2, and y2 coordinates so that we can plug them into our formula. At this point, we're ready to plug them into our formula. Remember, our formula is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's plug numbers in. So we have 1 minus 3 over 8 minus 4. Now we need to solve the top and the bottom separately, and then we will reduce. So 1 minus 3 is negative 2. 8 minus 4 is 4. And when we reduce, that gives us 1/2. So the slope of our line in this case is 1/2. Let's try another. Here we have another set of ordered pairs. So again, we're going to label these as x1, y1, x2, y2. Then we're going to plug them into our formula. It's the same formula we've been using. So we're going to have slope equals 3 minus 9 over 4 minus 6. Again, we need to solve the top and the bottom independently, and then we can reduce. 3 minus 9 is going to give us negative 6, and 4 minus 6 is going to give us negative 2. Notice in this case we have a negative over a negative. Anytime that we multiply or divide two negatives, they turn into a positive. So the negative over the negative is going to become positive. Okay? It's really important. From there, we just reduce. 6 divided by 2 is 3. That means that our slope here is positive 3. All right, next example. On here, I'm going to start just like we had before. We have x1, y1, x2, y2. And some of you are probably wondering, why am I still labeling these? Duh, it's obviously x1, y1, x2, and y2. But I find that if students don't go ahead and plug those in, quite honestly, if I don't go ahead and fill that out on there, then every once in a while I will make a very silly mistake and I will plug the same number in twice, or I will plug the wrong number into the wrong spot. So it's really, up to you whether you label those, but it can be a lifesaver for your grade. Okay, again, we're going to go ahead and plug these in. So I have 2 minus 2 is over 5 minus 10. When we go to solve the top here, you're going to notice that 2 minus 2 is 0. And that is going to really scare some of you, but we're okay. If you get 0, that's fine. You could double check your work, but then go ahead and plug it in. We're also going to do 5 minus 10, which is negative 5. And at this point, we need to talk about what happens when you have a 0 on top. Okay, if you have a 0 on top, I like to tell you that's going to be okay. It means it's going to equal 0. But you're not going to have any errors. If you type that in your calculator, it can confirm that your answer is 0. So this means that our slope is 0. And we're going to talk about what that means in just a minute. Okay? So if you have a 0 on top, it's okay. That means that your slope is 0. We'll talk about what kind of line that is at the end of this presentation. Let's try another example. So here we have x1, y1, x2, all right, x2, y2. Okay. And when we go to plug those in, we get 6 minus 3 over 9 minus 9. So again, we're going to solve. And when we do 6 minus 3, we get 3. When we do 9 minus 9, we're going to get 0. If you type this in your calculator, you are going to get an error. Okay, it'll say ERR, it can't calculate it, there's a problem, it's not there. If you have a fancy calculator, it might tell you what I'm about to tell you. I always think of a 0 on the bottom as saying no. And the reason for that is it's an undefined line. Okay, it still is a line, still is your slope, but you're not going to have a number. Your slope is undefined. And when you write that on your homework, you would just write UND, that's the abbreviation, and that is your slope. Okay, now let's talk about what that means. Okay, again, NO, if the 0 is on the bottom, it's undefined. If you have an undefined line, you're going to have a vertical line. Vertical lines go up and down. So that would be lines like the y-axis. All of those vertical lines are undefined slopes, or they have undefined slopes. If, on the other hand, you had one like we did just before that, where you had 0 for a slope, that's going to be a horizontal line, like the x-axis. And the way that I help myself remember that is, you'll notice that in horizontal, right, you have a z, and the z here has horizontal lines on top and bottom. And I remember that that matches up with the z here on 0, and that helps me remember, hey, wait, that's a horizontal line. There's a z there. Remember that for slope, when we find this, it's giving us our rise over run. So our rise is how much we're counting up or down on the y-axis. Our run is how much we're counting left or right on the x-axis. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.